before you start the interview, can I ask you just to tell me your name, please?
My name is Connor Hobson, and I've just realised I've misspelt it on the nameplate.
Connor, it's fine.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's
It's
fine.
just
It's
another day,
fine.
isn't it?
It's just another day. So, Connor Hobson, welcome to the
Mm.
interview for Fair is Foul, but the rest is silence. So, with working with Gianpiero and the work of Chekhov, what would you say is the most beneficial thing about the work of Anton Chekhov with the Three Sisters and the Seagull?
Um. Okay, I'm gonna. Do you mean as in the work we do, as in the text itself,
The
or
text
what it
itself,
brought
the
out?
entire text itself, and the overview.
Right. Um. I think the most interesting thing with the text, at least, is that it's if you. I mean, you probably know what I'm on about here, but if you look at the Three Sisters and the Seagull, you look at any of Chekhov's works, there's a lot of themes that are very similar that carry over between them. And I feel like a lot of those themes are still very relevant today, what is art, for example, the definition of love, these sort of things. And also the stories don't always have happy endings, which is I know it's a weird thing to say. You always want, because in stories you always want the good guy to win and to kiss the girl and all this, but life's not always like that. And I think that's what Chekhov's writing captures quite well, is that it's not always happy. It's not always cut and dry.
It's very realistic. There's always a realistic essence into the work that's there.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
which again feeds into the whole idea of it being naturalism, which is very, very convenient.
Mm. Do you think once the COVID-19 pandemic's come under control and obviously there are less restrictions, do you think the industry can go back to the way it was working before the restrictions and the lockdowns were first introduced?
That's a good question. Very good question. Um, I'd certainly like to see it go back to how it used to be. But whether it will or won't is another question. I think every industry, not just performing arts, will be impacted by this. Like I think going forward, it will change practices a lot, which is good. I think, because I think it's made a lot of us realize that actually this is, there's a lot of things that we could take from this pandemic, like hand sanitizer. Why don't we have that everywhere? That seems like it's just a casual thing you should have. Because you touching handles and things, you get all sorts from that. That's just a good thing that they should carry forward. So yeah, I think there's a lot we can learn from this, and there's a lot of things that will carry over. But I think so I don't think it will entirely go back to how it was, but I think overall it will be very hopefully restored.
Hmm. Okay. Has the pandemic affected the way you work as an actor, director, creative? If it has, how has it?
Um, you see, it's funny you should mention this because I was actually writing something about this earlier. Um, but I think in terms of in terms of ideas, it certainly they flourished. There was a lot of um, ideas and concepts that started to form during the lockdown as a result of it, which I think is very good. That even in a time like that dark, you can still derive something from it. Um, but the thing that I noticed the most is, as an actor, my motivation was the thing that suffered the most. Because I noticed, especially when doing work for the Seagull, I realized that there were some times when I would have a really good idea, and it was something really strong that could go somewhere really well if I just tuned it up and gave it a go. But because I was stuck at home and there wasn't anyone there, it was just sort of like, well, what's the point? And then I wouldn't. Then when I would film it or record it for my own benefit, I just wouldn't feel that motivation. And I realized it because I think I realized it when I came back from that when we came back from that lockdown, because I got back into that space and everyone was around, and suddenly there were all these ideas in my head and all these things, and I just wanted to, watching everyone else push forward was like, oh, I want to push forward too. And it was like that rivalry is very healthy and very helpful. And when you're confined in a space such as your own home and there's no one around to give you that rivalry, and everything becomes sort of repetitive and monotonous, you start to lose that, I think, that motivation. And that's very important in anything, not
Mm.
just acting, because motivation is what drives us forward in life.
Very good words. Very, very good words. Do you think audiences have missed live theatrical performances since theatres were ordered shut last year?
I mean, the thing is, like some performances have gone virtually, online, filmed it and posted it live, and movies have been fine for about all of this, which is nice. It's good to know that something remains untouched. But yes, as for theatres, a lot of it's been streaming or live streams and things like that, which I think is great. I think it's something we should carry on, like because there's something nice about being able, because if you can't get the tickets or you can't go, it's nice to still be able to watch it, from the comfort of your own home. But I think it removes a lot of the spectacle of going to see it live, because I feel like watching something recorded, it doesn't have that same atmosphere as watching it live. When you watch it live, it's in front of you. You feel like you could reach out and join it, and there are some performances that encourage you to do that. And when you're just watching it on a screen, it doesn't have that same effect, which I think is why theatre is so magical in a way, because it feels like at any moment you could be pulled up and join into that story. It feels like you feel closer to it. When you're watching it through a screen, it's like yes, I'm enjoying it, but there's all these fast cuts and everything, and it's like, this isn't reality. But when it's on a stage in front of you, and you can feel the tension in the room building, and you can feel the energy from the actors and their experiences as they're on stage, it's like at any moment I could go up there and join them, or this is I could walk past my neighbor's house, for example, look in the window and see something exactly like this unfolding in front of me.
Would you say
So
it's
yeah.
quite electric then, the energy of actually being in the
Oh yeah.
atmosphere with not just the audience, but also with the actors, the set, the costume, the
Yeah.
lights, the music? It just gives, it's not the same feeling as watching it from watching it from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because when you're sat in, I mean, it's just, you get a similar thing when you're sat in a cinema, from like the other audience members, their energy feeds into yours and it builds, and it's quite wonderful. Like some of the I mean, I don't know if you know about this, but like reports of the first screenings of like Star Wars, there were people cheering like at
Mm.
the ending, which was really, that's like a really nice. Um, but the thing with theater acting is that, unlike film and television, it's just sort of the director and the production crew, and you just have to go for it and hope it works out and that people like it. It's a bit of a gamble. Um, but with theater, that you get that immediate reaction. The reaction's not more, a lot more immediate. With a film or television, you have to wait a couple of months. But with theater, it's the moment that something lands, because people react. You can feel it in the air. And I think that will then bring the actors out, because they can take that energy and use it themselves, and that brings them further. And as a result, can make this experience a lot more interesting, and also makes it very adaptable. It won't be the same every night, which is really nice. And I don't think films or TV have that. Like there are movies you can watch time and time again, you get different things out of them. But with a show, it's very different, because it tailors to the atmosphere and the audience and their sensibilities. It will adjust depending on how they react. Whereas with a
Mm.
movie, you can't really do that. It will just be the same thing, no
Mm.
matter how. I mean, you obviously look at it from different angles and you see different things, but it's still that same process over and over again.
Very good, very good. And last question, what do you hope that the pandemic has highlighted in our modern world?
Oh. Well, I think from an artistic standpoint, I think it's highlighted how important the arts are to, us as people. Without that entertainment, and God knows what we would have done during the lockdown. Probably would have killed each other, or it probably would have come out and there'd just be ruins everywhere. But no, I think on a personal level, obviously this, speaking for myself here, this might just be me, but I think the lockdown has taught us that how important we are to each other, because being stuck in that lockdown alone, you suddenly realized, oh God, those people that I saw every day, at the time it was just like, oh, whatever, I'll see you tomorrow. But when you were in that lockdown, they weren't there. It was like, I miss them. And I think that's what the lockdown has taught us, is how important the people we love are to us,
Very good words to end on, Connor. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.